Welcome to MSP 1337. I'm your host, Chris Johnson, a show dedicated to cybersecurity challenges, solutions, a journey together, not alone. Games, you brought it to the show, so tell me, how do you approach IR games? Because I think IR games is one of the most valuable things MSPs, not just to do internally, we should be doing with clients.
I think it's important to make sure you're including more than just the technical aspect. When I participated in the online game, for me, it was really valuable to be able to see what role I could play as a person who understands technology but who isn't involved in it day to day in the teching of things.
The teching of things.
Yeah. I don't know, fixing, remoting in, whatever, that kind of thing, right? I do the processes, I do the ticketing system, but that's a little different. It's very high level. It's not the same as being down in the grid of it.
Sure.
In an incident, I'm not going to be the one looking to see if there's any kind of lateral movement or whatever. I'm handling the PR, I'm handling, that kind of thing, and understanding what those roles are, not only for myself, but for the rest of my team. So,
Sure.
Yeah, that's important.
It's funny. I had the opportunity about 6 months ago. I participated in IR games with the former commander of cyber for the U.S. Army, and they did this whole scenario. We each had tables, and each table was an individual in the organization, and they did the role playing, and so the phone rings, and it's Wired magazine, and they go to the person that's like the receptionist. And they're like, so Wired's on the line, and they want to know, is it true? Because they've got a story that they're ready to release. Do you want to make a statement? Mm-hmm. And that's how this whole game kind of started out. And you could hear some snickering at first at tables, and well, I would never let them to say anything. And it's like, when an incident occurs,
You don't have control.
Right.
What do you mean you don't let them? You're not going to be there micromanaging your receptionist at the desk to know what they're going to say.
Well, and the perfect example was that they said in this situation was, hold on, they're all in the back room working through the incident.
Oh, that's
And boom, suddenly it's okay, you just confirmed what we already know.
Yeah.
And so then it was so it was about to break for lunch, and so they're like, well, we're going to call back in 45 minutes if you haven't given us a statement. We're running with our story.
Oh boy.
And so now the clock's ticking, and so there was nothing technical about that request, right?
No. That's both an operations problem in the sense of, have you trained your people inside the admin team, on what it is they can and can't say in the face of these things, but also I want to call it a silo problem where, the person it's always like with a tech who has a problem and a client's down, for example. It's the exact same thing, whether it be security or not. And they go, I got to sit down and I got to fix this thing. And I don't want to talk to the client. I don't want to talk to anybody. I want to fix this thing. But the reality is that you still have to update somebody that, okay, it is down, or something is happening. I can't say what yet because I'm trying to figure it out. Every hour, 2 hours, that communication still needs to happen. Otherwise, people are left in a vacuum.
Sure.
And
there has to be a protocol for it.
Exactly.
One of the things that can be really devastating to the response time is the phone keeps ringing.
Yes.
And they're mad because you didn't answer the phone. And you're like, well, I was on the phone with support.
That's how you use your admin people.
Right.
You use the people internally. You train them on what they can and can't say. You bring in that awareness of what this looks like for them because they're not involved in the technology.
Sure.
They can be involved in that.
Yeah, and I think the type of incidents, I don't want to say you have to go through, here's the 24 incidents we're preparing you for, but I think there's probably 3 or 4 categorical, natural disaster, power lines cut, fiber cut.
Yeah.
There's things that are easy to talk about. And then there's things to your point, I got to solve this problem. Cut fiber or power plants out. Those are, generally you get those answers pretty fast because it's not just impacting one client or you.
Yeah.
But what I find difficult is, to your point about the technical ones, engineers don't like to vocalize. And I'm not saying that to be judgy on engineers that are, truly extrovert people, but we want to solve the problem as fast as possible.
It's also true that there's a lot more introverts on the technical side than there is extroverts. And the reality in that situation is, if you have great people in your team, they want to make your client happy, and there's nothing that's going to make your client happier than saying, I've got it solved, I know what's wrong. So until they have that answer, they're going to be like, I don't want to talk to anybody. So you can have somebody in the middle, right?
Right.
That could be the thing that you set up. It's much easier to talk to the friend that you see every single day at the lunch table.
Yeah.
And instead of a client who you feel pressure and all this like overwhelming, oh my God, they're going to be mad at me, they're going to yell at me, and they're going to put all this on me. It's just a reality of understanding the personalities and the dynamic.
Sure.
It's a culture thing, right?
Oh, absolutely. I think about IR games, and it's kind of like a real world Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes. Yeah.
Hopefully, you don't have to get into like the magic spells and.
Maybe you could.
Yeah, I mean.
You want to make it realistic, though.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah. Amanda was killed by a troll. Yeah, this could get complicated really quickly.
Can we call the troll? Can we call the troll Roddy?
Yeah. Roddy came out from under the bridge in typical fashion. So what I find interesting about IR games in general is that in a lot of organizations, there's very little prep that goes into. They put too much time prepping for an IR game, and not enough time helping people understand the role that they will play, not just in a game, but in the real world. So I think one of the, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, one of the things I love doing is just saying, hey, we're going to do this IR games and incident response, but I also think the Dungeons and Dragons reference is tied to the fact that this is going to be role playing.
Yeah.
And different people have to play different roles. You can't just say, okay, since you're the CEO, you play the CEO role. Because what happens if the CEO is the reason why we're having the needing to do this response?
Yeah.
So I like to do two things. One, set up the roles that are not the actual people that are in those roles, just to see how they would respond. And then what I like to do is eliminate the characters.
Yeah.
So like you go through the scenario, you're like, oh, and these 3 people are out because they were on vacation.
So I actually ran a cybersecurity escape room at Right of Boom.
Oh, nice.
And so we did this, exactly what you're talking about. We actually paused in the middle of everybody trying to solve these crazy things in the room. We gave very little instruction on purpose to create chaos.
Sure.
And not everybody loved that, but they wanted a recipe, right?
Right.
They're used to that, but the reality is it's not like that.
Sure.
So when we were doing this, we had one moment where we're like, pause, your CEO now has to come and make a statement and speak in front of the entire room, and everybody took a turn and they got a vote. And then we had where there was technician burnout. Like, nope, you were losing these people from your team for a minute, so they're not going to be able to contribute and help, because that's reality.
So did you have any observers or like note takers, like, hey, they noticed that Amanda's emotion is distraught, or?
No, and that's a great point. I would have loved to bring in that. It was literally the first time we ever did it, and when I first suggested the idea, people were like, I don't understand how you're going to set up an escape room. But really what we did was we had people. So people were our obstacles. We had Jason Slagle dressed up as a bug, and he had the password for. Remember, we were doing this a ransomware event, and he had a password that you needed, but you had to say the right thing to him in order to get it, and you had to follow the instructions beforehand. So it was very like systemic, and it was follow these steps, which is what you have to be able to do in an IR.
Right.
But the unplanned part was the human you were talking to, because Jason would get to the point where you didn't say it the exact way that you were given, and he would be like, wrong, and he wouldn't give the instruction on that. He was like,
he's a bug.
Yeah, right. He's not going to behave the way you want to behave, right?
Yeah, so that's really interesting. So one thing I've seen, and I'm curious if you've had this happen, I love the idea of the game, is I've gone into rooms where there's 6, 7 MSPs, they've all showed up, they've got their IR plans with them, and we start going through scenarios, and they're making notes and editing, and I'm like, hold on, time out. If this is a real incident, there's no way you're updating your IR playbook while this is happening.
No.
So one of the things that I've requested is that anytime they do bring IR playbooks, if they're participating in the game, they can't do anything other than they can open it.
No.
They just can't touch it. They can't edit it.
You don't have any kind of incident happen,
right,
in my mind, without doing a debrief afterwards to look at what you could have done better. That's where that belongs, right?
Yes.
You should have a postmortem with your team in terms of what their roles were and how they could have contributed, or what exactly happened, for transparency. But also, you need to be looking at your current process.
Sure.
Did it meet what we were looking for, or is there a gap that we need to address?
Have you ever looked at the CISA playbook templates, the IR games that they've published?
I think somebody sent them to me, and I have not had a chance.
So they're amazing and awful at the same time. So like I did one of them about a year and a half ago, and it part of the problem is it's actually a real scenario.
Yeah.
Which is a blessing and a curse, because
Yeah.
if you aren't familiar with how they resolve the issue, obviously knowing that it is real does make it uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And then as you're working through it, you discover like there's pages and pages of like what happened next, and then now you're at 45 days, and now you're at 90 days, and how PR comes in. So I was curious, this is where I wanted to go with the conversation is, you and I talked about before the call, really taking an IR game and shrinking it down to something that is always happening within your organization. I think you called it your stand-ups.
So we have a morning huddle,
Okay.
and in our morning huddle, like every day of the week is a different approach of what we're doing. But when an incident happens, or when we had one recently, I won't name the company name, but there was one recently where it was something that touched several departments, and it wasn't a client of ours, it was a vendor that was dealing with the downtime. And so when it was all solved, we went through postmortem to kind of like just ask them two questions, like, what is it that, I can't even remember the questions right now because I'm on camera, but it was something like, what do you think we did? And what do you think your role would have been? Something like that. And we try to get people to put themselves in their shoes, right? And sometimes you get really cool answers from people who are not technical about what they would do, but it's very quick. And it's once we ask those questions, we then walk through what happened.
Yeah.
And very quickly, high level, and explain the reasons for doing that. It takes maybe 7 minutes usually.
Nice.
And it's very impactful because then they understand how they could have done something different later. They've contributed, they get to celebrate that they understood something. Like anytime you can double down on your team and being able to feel empowered, but also like confident, that's going to help in those moments because it's all muscle memory. It's like sports people, when they train, they're doing the same thing over and over again because they're trying to build muscle memory for when they're in the pressure moment. That's what you're doing when you're doing these games.
Yeah, it's your conditioning.
Yes.
It's conditioning. The muscle memory is a great analogy. I think so. When you're doing IR games, one of the ones that I like to do is the water cooler. Like, what if this happened?
Yeah.
I did this recently where I asked a group of MSPs, tomorrow your RMM vendor's gone and it's not coming back.
Wow.
They're like, what do you mean it's not coming back? I'm like, what if one of the products you use has an event occur that the probability of them ever being able to bring their product back online is not a percentage that we're willing to gamble on? What do you do? And like, it was just quiet for about probably a good full minute. And then someone said, would this be a scenario where you need to have a backup plan? And I'm like, well, I think this gets into like, as an MSP, what do your tools do?
Yeah.
And what are the criticality of those tools? So for you, it might be that RMM wasn't that big of a deal because that's not how you primarily connect to your client environments.
Yeah.
You can go and check to make
Might
sure
use
Windows
third party
5.
for
Yeah,
it.
there's
Yeah.
third party for it. But it started the conversation where, like, okay, wait a second, what about my configs? What would happen if I couldn't get to my configs for switches and
Because you're
firewalls?
talking to people who are used to troubleshooting through a problem, and the troubleshooting is I'm gonna look at these things and I'm gonna divide it. I'm gonna try and find
Right.
how I can fix it.
Right.
But the answer is you can't.
Right.
And you're removing that power. So of course they want to turn around and try and
Right, the lead with you can't fix this
Yeah,
is
it's
a
tough.
tough conversation. So we kept playing upon that and said, okay, how do you know when you should pivot? So like, for example, if the power goes out in your building for 15 minutes, everybody's probably still there. But at 2 hours or 4 hours, when does productivity hit a wall and you're like, we need to send everybody home?
But that's part of your planning, right? Like
Right.
you should know what your burn rate is. You should know what time where those thresholds are. Like for us internally, we know that if we're beyond 15 minutes and we don't have an update from the power company, and they haven't like even listed or registered that there's an issue, we're going to be at least an hour and a half. We send everybody home. So we're mostly in office. So we send everybody to work from home. It makes sure that we're good. And the people who are admin, they might stay a little bit longer because it's a little bit harder to do some of their jobs from home.
Sure.
And so we'll like stagger that, who gets to go when. But for the most part, we're sending help desk people home at that early because we can't be in a position where we're not answering the phone. We have based our reputation on picking up the phone and answering. So that's integral for us, both from a burn rate and a respect perspective.
So flood was another one, and ironically, I won't say the hotel, this one.
I saw the fans and I was curious where that was from. You just answered the question.
So you saw the what?
The fans, they were doing fans to dry stuff out.
Oh, in January.
Okay.
The
happening again, I
the
think.
gazebo
Yeah.
was almost completely submerged.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So like the rails, this part of there was water to here.
That's crazy.
And so it got me thinking about all of the things that we do when we travel. That do we do a good job of educating our staff about things that, you know, the incident response playbook, if you will, of when they're on the road.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I've ever considered that. That's something I'm not going to have nightmares about. Thank you very much for that. But you know what? But I will say this though. One thing I have done, and we were kind of talking about it earlier today in one of the council meetings. When I go into an event and I bring staff for the first time, I do talk to them about like etiquette and how, like, prepare them how to engage. But I never thought about it from, like, maybe some of the women on the safety side, I talked to them about like how to make sure that you're operating within safety in the environment. But I don't think I've ever thought about it that way.
Yeah, it's something that I've just started. Actually, Henry, Tim, and I have been talking about it for a while. Like, if you travel abroad, remembering to do things like reboot your cell phone before you go through a security checkpoint.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a second. I am now building a checklist for things that I need to do to be, you know, prepared, to be more conscious. And I think, you know, one of the things we often miss is, while we may not be celebrities, we don't have an entourage, we're not, you know, signing autographs.
I don't want to.
Right. We do have, many of us have relatively high profiles.
Or platforms.
Platforms, yeah, it's a great way to say it. So you can be at an event, you don't know if that's someone who's stalking you, they genuinely just want to talk to you, maybe they just want to get close to you and they're weird and you're like, why are they next to you? And they're like, they've got something in their pocket that's trying to scan all the devices that you have.
Yeah.
I remember one where a lady went into a building with platform shoes on, and inside one of her platform shoes was a Linksys Wi-Fi data collector, and basically what it was doing is it was scanning all of the wireless signals and capturing key data that then allowed them to remotely hack into that building and compromise all kinds of stuff.
See, I went to, I'm a Robin Robbins member, and I went to one of her events, I don't remember how many years ago it was, and I got to hear Kevin Mitnick speak, and he said one of the biggest dangers, in his opinion, is people's cell phones. He said the Bluetooth capabilities that a lot of people just have turned on that don't register or log, like they don't turn on Bluetooth logging, and then people just use that to gain access to things. He goes, it's going to be absolutely wild. I don't even know if we know how bad that is. Like, those types of situations, like, they're examples, but I think there's a lot more of a rabbit hole here when it comes to that mobile technology. And
that's a great scary. Now you're giving me nightmares.
Sorry.
but if you think about,
no, he did. I was like, I am on an iPhone, so apparently it automatically does it, but Android doesn't. So you need to be turning it on so that you can understand, like, who's connecting when and what, because some people just have that just literally open.
So I don't think they use this term anymore in the same way, but PAM, which is personal access management today, it used to be something that we used to connect our personal devices to each other in like a small Bluetooth, a Bluetooth network essentially.
Okay.
I don't remember what we called it, but it was, I want to say it was like PAM.
Okay.
So like your laptop would often be the hub, and or a headset could be the hub.
Yeah.
And then you got all these devices that connect through that one point. And I find it really interesting today to what you're saying, because Bluetooth, when that was popular, really was restricted to ranges of about 30 feet, and Bluetooth was not extremely reliable. Today, with what version 5 dot whatever we're on, I mean, I've gone in my backyard with my phone in the garage and realized, like, I didn't have my phone in my pocket and I'm still on Bluetooth. Like,
to me, I liken it like networks, right? Like, you know, you used to be able to go over to your friend's house and you'd be like, haha, let me just see if I can connect to their, let me see if I can connect to the neighbor's printer and print stuff and scare them, right? Like, to me, like, if you think about how cool that was or how funny that was, but it's also very dangerous. We went and put a lot of protections in place to stop that.
Cordless phones that you could pick up on someone's TV. You're like, that's party line.
Party line. I was just going to say. And like, so those things have gone away, but it still exists. The problem still exists in a different form.
So PAN is what I was trying to figure out. So personal area network was that the proximity of me, the human, and
we used
the
to get those little hubs that you could plug in, and it would do it for all of your stuff at once. Yeah.
So the idea is actually quite disturbing that.
I wish I could go back. I'll see if I can find that recording and send it to you.
But I mean,
almost his whole talk was about it. And listening to Kevin Mitnick speak about how he used to exploit things, he's a person who very much has that mindset. And so do most hackers or people that are trying to do anything that's in the security space from the opposite side. Like, they have this mindset of, how can I break it? How can I find the hole?
Well,
and we need to think that way, right?
Like, being willing to see the rules for what they are, but understanding the rules actually. So it's like what policy.
Yeah.
I can write a policy, and I can ask you to follow the policy, or else punitive, repercussions.
Yeah.
But if I implement technical controls that you can't bypass, then while the policy is nice for you to be aware so that you don't do it or intentionally try to circumvent it, the technology controls are preventing bad things from happening.
Yeah.
And I think this is a perfect example.
Well,
of
two-pronged, right? You got to do both
Yeah,
sides.
right, and one of those prongs is often tied just to the fact that we using technical safeguards, we can't always address everything. If not now, then when? Right? Like, so something else might come along that changes our ability to do it with a technical implementation.
But even then, the technical implementation addresses what we know now. It doesn't necessarily.
Right.
And so then every single time something happens, you have to keep reiterating. Same is true for policy. If you make your policy too specific, then you're going to have to just turn around and like update it every 2 weeks. Like you have to look at where the lines
more
are
like
that
a process.
way. But nonetheless,
Yeah.
it's true though.
Policies are dangerous when it comes to frequency of change, right?
Yeah, you want to make sure they're up to date.
Well, and your staff needs to know, right? And how often can staff handle a new update to a policy? Probably once and never.
Well, have you ever seen the studies too that talk about the attention span is changing as we go along because social media changes it? We now don't want to watch 10-minute TikToks. We want to watch 10-second TikToks and get as much as we can during that. I was listening to somebody from Cronus talk about how they've approached their education piece on their side, and they've changed all their content to make sure that it's quick, because things need to read things quickly. They don't have the attention span to read long policies.
Yeah, there's actually a rule of attention. It's an actual rule of attention. It was written, and it was tied to doing like PowerPoint presentations and speaking, seminar style. You have to change every 7 minutes, or you lose an audience at 10.
I think it's shorter now.
Oh, you're probably right.
Yeah.
I think I always laugh when you put slides up and have a slide of something that's got data in it. How many people take pictures?
Yeah.
So they won't pay attention to the entire session, but you throw 4 or 5 slides in a deck, and you're like, oh, they took pictures. They must really be engaged.
See, I just go with not putting much of anything. So I put one word, and then it tells me what I'm supposed to be talking during the time, because that way it's easier to keep on track
Images.
and related to story.
Yeah, like basically play PowerPoint roulette, and you can just come up with the story on the fly.
That's something we got to do at a conference. We already said
right.
that before, yeah.
Any last words around IR? I think one takeaway that I have is that you should make them a part of your everyday.
Yeah, the cadence. We were just talking about making those cadences more frequent and shorter means that you're going to have more of a chance to really impart that in a way that's situational for everything that's happening and meaningful in the way that every generation can ingest it.
Do you think that that's a segue into security skills awareness training? Like we do once a year. I know that ransomware is bad.
No, I think a lot of the places that are doing it great do it more frequent and in smaller bites, and they don't make it ridiculous, because when it is ridiculous, like no one's paying attention, they just go whatever, and they fill it out. It's pretty obvious what the answer is.
Like, you're not going to fire me if I did bad.
Well, you shouldn't fire people anyway over that stuff. Fair. Like, you shouldn't be punishing your people. If you want them to actually engage with it, you should more go towards a culture of celebrating, and that will help get adoption of what you want.
Well, Amanda, I appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you for giving me space to talk, because I love talking.
You did great, and I hope everybody enjoys this. This will come out in October for Cybersecurity Month. So for everybody listening, thanks, and have a great week.